the dump, I can't get.
Okay, everybody, we're gonna come to order. So Finance Committee, Cinco de Mayo at 6:31. So that clock is wrong by 10 minutes. So our first order, we'll just identify ourselves to the record to see who's here. So Sandy, you wanna start?
Sandy Pipers.
Carol Godowinski.
Heather Warren.
Robert Leonardi.
Dick Vandenberg. I've heard from Ryan, who can't make it, but that's all I've heard from so far, so we'll see if the others come in. So our first thing we're gonna do, we're gonna take things a little out of order on the agenda, is the intra-departmental transfer for 465651, Jean, is that right? Can you explain to the group what we're doing here a minute?
So the Board of Selectmen is going to do a dam inspection, the Select Board actually, the dam inspection for the proposed land purchase. And there's two ways we could have handled that, because it was after town meeting, we could have done a reserve fund transfer or gone this route. And because it's their request, I preferred going with the intra-departmental transfer. So that's what's before you this evening. It has to be approved by both the Finance Committee and the Board of Selectmen.
So any questions on that? Jean, anybody?
Considering they've done the inspection already, I guess we have to pay for it.
They have started, yes.
They could have saved the money if they'd listened to me.
All right, any questions? Mike, you wanna say that again, Jean, real quick, just for Mike's benefit?
This is before you as an intra-departmental transfer for the dam inspection for the proposed purchase of the land that the select board's doing prior to any decisions being made.
Off Friday Hill,
I'm sorry?
off Friday Hill.
Yes.
And the reason the FinCom needs to vote on this is because it's a transfer of money between departments, correct?
And both the board, the select board as well as the finance committee have to approve this.
And then everybody, the motion would be that we approve the transfer of funds of the amount of $4,565.51 from community development salaries to selectmen expenses, right?
To selectmen expense, correct.
Any questions on that? Anybody? Would somebody move that motion?
So moved.
Heather moves it,
Second.
second by Rob. Any discussion?
How much was the amount?
45.65 and 51 cents. So
That's the amount needed.
Yeah.
Because the select board has some money in their budget. Does it give the total amount on the
the
report?
total is 6,200.
6,200 for that inspection? All right,
They already paid it.
They paid it, no, they already had it done.
They already started
Right.
it, so we are on the hook
But what's
for it, so-
interesting is the person who was selling it was supposed to be paying for this.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's too
Anybody else
late
on the
now.
motion? So it's been made and seconded. Everybody clear on it? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
One no, any abstains? So 5-1, okay. The vote is 5.
On principle, yes.
Yes.
We already started.
Hey, Jean, you wanna run this over to?
It's interpretive.
Welcome, Michael.
Thank you.
So 6, so 5-1, right? And then the same again, right?
Correct, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, the amount requested was 6,200.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you read, that was the balance in the selectmen?
Well, when you asked, I think we said 6,200 on the, in the
Okay.
thing, so.
Just want to make sure.
And Carol about had a heart attack, right,
Yeah.
Carol? Yeah.
Can I ask questions about this though? I mean, are we allowed to say how come this went forward and was done without finance committee approval? And if the seller was supposed to pay for this, why did are we allowed to ask that?
You are.
At the next finance committee meeting, are we allowed to,
We can circle back.
can we circle back?
It has not, you can ask the question. This is mainly just the transfer of the funds from one account to the other. That's what you're doing tonight to cover this expense.
All right.
Yeah.
I don't need to speak for you, but
And the question about the expense, right?
Right, the reason why I voted no on this is because I think it's inappropriate that if we don't have funds in the budget, we shouldn't put ourselves out onto a limb. Right,
Exactly.
it gives the impression to me that administration feels as though they've got a complacent finance committee that's not really curious about oversight. And I think before asking for forgiveness on, ooh, we've got a bill like this, now we have to transfer funds from here or there, it's more appropriate to bring it to the table and say, hey, the seller was supposed to do this, they're not going to be able to, or they're not for whatever reason, we're having to renegotiate. Circle back and let's talk about that at the forefront, rather than, hey, we got one arm behind your back, how about a yes vote? That's just the way it seems and it comes across.
So, just process-wise, Mike, if we dialed back a month or two, wonder where in the process it would have been possible that we would have known about this expense. I mean,
There shouldn't be one,
It was, the
done
landowner was
properly.
supposed to do it,
right,
we get half the facts.
exactly.
If Carol was
so
not
did the
here,
landowner know? He or
if
she
Carol
was
wasn't
supposed-
here, we would have no insight, right?
That was the thing, the landowner was supposed to pay for it, but then she wasn't paid for it, so we decided, or she couldn't find somebody to do it.
Oh,
So they
right.
decided that they would hire, that they would hire someone that we use,
Yeah.
and they would do it. And then they would get it back when they bought the land. Well, they may not buy the land, because the dam didn't pass, which I could have told them that, and it
So
saved them
Carol-
$7,500.
So where in the process did that issue of the landowner paying for this come up?
That was in the original contract or purchase and sale agreement, or whatever it was that they had with her.
And did we get a chance to look at that?
No, we didn't, but I've been to enough meetings that that's what
Yeah.
I was told, okay?
Okay. So I'm just trying to think out
So the
loud
seller
here.
was supposed to pay for this? I didn't know.
Basically to assert that they've got a compliant dam,
Before
that
we
is-
take on the liability.
Right,
Thank you. I didn't know that.
typical too, if you sell your house and you have private septic, you have to go get your septic inspected to
Right.
prove,
Yes, that, yeah.
it's passable and a mortgage company will offer a loan against that.
Right.
That was kind of similar transaction that was supposed to take place here, but we have move on.
Yeah, lesson learned, I guess. But that's a good point, Mike, and Carol too. But anyway, we're gonna carry on, but yeah,
Too late now.
note to self, I guess, yeah.
Well,
But I think
can we
Mike
bring
makes
it
a
up in
good
the
point.
next finance
We
committee
can
meeting,
circle it
which
back.
I would like to circle back on that.
We would like to have that,
Yeah.
the people.
Absolutely.
So I'll make a note of that for another agenda.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the other one is the pay for, what is this again, Jean?
That's for the five.
Oh, for the flyer, right? And we all have to sign this one, or?
Yes.
Okay. So this is a motion then, is it a motion that we need to vote on this, right, or not?
You're allowed to sign it, but if you're having a meeting, I typically
Okay.
the whole committee.
Yeah, this is the bill for the flyer, so any objection to us just all signing it tonight, because we can pay our bills? Okay. So I'll sign it and then I'll pass it to Carol and if everybody could sign it, then, Rob, can you give it to Jean then?
Sure.
All right, so if everybody would just sign that and then pass it on, Rob.
No, I do not.
I got one.
You got one?
Here,
It's Mike's finger out.
sorry, I did that one.
All right, everybody, so in terms of the special town meeting, does anybody have any comments or questions about that? So what really interests me is at the annual, if citizens ask about the 3-3 vote on the Valley Tech budget, or the 5-1 against vote on the a separate fund. Do you guys kind of trust me to answer that, or do some of you want to speak to that if a citizen asks? So let's look at the first one. So when we were 3-3 on the Valley Tech budget, if a citizen says, I want to know why the Finance Committee had 3 negative votes, would any of you like to answer that, or are you content with me kind of summarizing what our discussion was? Because for me, it seems like the reason for the 3 no votes were basically the frustration that we can only give our own people 2 to 3%, while Valley Tech is asking for 10.5%. I think that was one of the frustrations. And then the second one was that one town by itself can't really make a difference on the Valley Tech budget, that you're sort of flying solo on that. If somebody asks and I say that, is that good enough, or would any of you want me to add anything else?
Well, I think it's not a carte blanche, right? So, like, our town has been judicious in our fiscal responsibility, where BVT has never been impacted. They've never had to do any cuts. They've been able to get what they want, right? And you need a vast majority, 7 out of the 13 school districts, to vote yes. By us being quasi, I think, tie, because I think we're missing one person, right? It's sending the message that, hey, you need to be looking, because that, again, the stability account that they say doesn't really tell us, really define what it's gonna be used for too as well, right? It's gonna be
Well,
used for
Well, I think
this,
that's the second one.
That's the second issue,
that's the
yeah.
second one, right? But it's the school budget itself,
Right.
year over year, it doesn't keep pace with what we're able to do for our local schools.
And then for the 5-1, if somebody asks, I thought I'd point out the vagueness of the wording of the warrant article in terms of what it's going to be used for and accountability and so on. But would it be inappropriate to say, and this might be another way for Valley Tech just to get money from us, or just keep it really simple? What's your wisdom on that, everybody?
Well, I think, we don't have enough money to run our own things. They were gonna be putting into a stabilization fund for them. And what really worries me about that, there's only, when they say all 13 towns, it's 13 people that are gonna vote on this. The
Right.
one representative from each town. And you know that, I'm sure our representative is a good fellow and everything, but he's gonna be steamrolled by these people on his vote, you know it.
So I don't want to get into too many weeds. If somebody asks, just keep it real simple.
All right.
But that's a good point,
I don't
Carol.
think it's gonna get into too many weeds though. I mean, I think, we're doing our judicious responsibility to be representing what it is they're asking for.
Yeah.
They're asking for a blank check basically to take money, put it into that account, and they will deem how they wanna spend it, right?
Right.
Yep.
That, period, that's it. Like, we have a clear capitalization plan that we have out for 5 years, right? And we go through that, and some years we can afford to fund a little bit more, some years it's a little bit less. But with BVT, it's going to be year over year over year, that account is going to grow, and we have no insight. They say that they're going to put out there what it is, but they haven't, that would be next year they would change the verbiage if we voted as is.
So Heather, I was just imagining if somebody asked about the 5-1 vote, saying, well, okay, everybody, look back at Article X at our capital setup. It's very clear what we're gonna do the next 5 years, what things are gonna cost. This article has none of that.
Correct.
Would that be a fair thing to say, you think?
It's a better representation why we turned it down.
Yeah, okay.
But I think the other thing too, the fact that it doesn't come back to the whole town to vote.
Right.
Okay, and our stabilization, and correct me if I'm wrong, when we take something out of our stabilization, doesn't the whole town meeting have to vote to take it out?
Town meeting has to
Yeah, the
vote.
whole
Yeah.
town meeting,
Yeah.
so the whole town gets to vote. Well, this one here, no, it's gonna be one person that's our representative, and there's only gonna be 13 people that's gonna vote this whole thing, whatever they're taking out. So that's,
They only need 7.
right, and they only
They
need
only
7
need
of them.
seven, yeah.
There you go, even
In
worse than I thought.
comparison, though, doesn't the Douglas school system have its own stabilization account on the books? They don't have, they've taken from, what's that account that they have? It's
They have school choice, but it's not a stabilization account.
It's not stabilization, we put, the school now comes to the capitalization for the town.
We have a general stabilization account and we have a capital stabilization account, but you put in
Yeah,
$100,000,
but I thought
that's where the
they've
finance
had I'm gonna get the terminology wrong, but it was similar to like a free cash or something.
That's their
like-
school choice.
That's their school
That's
choice.
what we
Yeah.
use to
Okay.
pay for the emergencies, the
Right,
pop-ups,
and historically, the school does kind of pony
We-
up with their own cash
Correct,
to
we-
fund things in need.
Right.
But again, correct me if I'm wrong, that doesn't need a town vote on it, that's up to the jurisdiction of the school committee to do as they
Correct,
please
but
with it.
it's if it's a major capital fund, it is gonna come back to the town for them to have. We don't keep a rainy day pot of funds up there, the roof is gonna be, what, 30, I think it's significant.
I'm just saying apples to apples comparison, you know, in terms of what Carol was saying, the school does have something similar to this. It's,
I wouldn't say they're
So that's-
similar.
I mean, cause BVT is looking for 5% of their
We don't
of their
put
entire
5%.
budget that they could put into the stabilization
I'm
fund,
not talking
which is-
percentages and ratios, I'm just saying that there is an account on the books for the school that they have sole jurisdiction over. They could choose to put it on the table and use it for operations or emergency purposes, or they could keep it under the mattress and not utilize it.
BVT already has one of those types of accounts.
We don't, the school doesn't have that.
So like, for instance, if the school needs a lot of money for a new whatever flux capacitor, they have to come to the capital committee for that.
And then the town has to vote.
Yeah, and then we vote on it at
Right,
the town
just
meeting.
vote to give it to them.
But there have been things in the past where the school has had emergency needs and Courtney's been able to pull from that
Correct, we-
school
that-
choice fund
The school
and
choice is,
not
yes,
need a town
Right.
vote, is all I'm saying.
yes.
Okay.
It's, you know, so I'm just making the comparison of, we don't like the fact that BVT has this side account that they control the puppet strings to, right? That seems to me, what I'm hearing from everybody is the issue is, they don't have to come into a forum of town citizenship to vote yay or nay on it. It's established and then it's up to them to pull the puppet strings and do what they wish with it. My only comparison is the school choice funds are somewhat similar in that. The Douglas school system has always done us and the citizens right by utilizing that, whether it be for emergency needs or helping to prop up operations in times of need as well too.
I think Ryan, one of his concerns at our last meeting about Valley Tech already has something like a rainy day fund that they could dip into. Do you remember that, Rob? I mean, Ryan kept asking that question about,
I don't think they do,
Okay.
say, but the percentage, so the percentage would be instead of like 10%, it'd be 15%, because if they wanna raise that capital, depending on how our ratio balances out, it's instead of being 10%, it's gonna be like 15 to 20, depending on how it balances out with the 13 other communities.
so are you guys comfortable with me at least initially answering questions from the public if they ask?
Have fun.
If someone asks the
Heather's
question,
available though, right, Heather?
if someone asks the question about the person who voted for it, what's she gonna tell them? I didn't realize what I was voting
Yeah,
for, right?
I'm gonna say
Because
that
I
if
would've
I could have
voted no
changed
too.
my vote, I would change it to no, yes.
So,
On the 3-3 vote.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how much you wanna get into the weeds. My concerns were an underfunded pension plan with absolutely no plan for how to remedy that. The fact that, again, there's disparity between the benefits that the BVT teachers are receiving versus what we're giving to our own teachers, specifically the retiree medical benefits. That's an enormous disparity there. And the fact that that's the single greatest increase in costs is the retiree costs for medical at BVT. It was 13% versus 4% for the teachers, and they haven't had an increase to what they've had to contribute in 35 years. They've been paying only 15% in retirement of their medical premiums for the last 35 years. And I believe our town administrator said it was 50-50.
Yeah, we're 50-50.
We're 50-50, whereas it's 85-15, and again, that number hasn't changed in 35 years. So I don't think there's some fiscal prudence there that seems to be missing.
Lynn, what's the national average of people paying their own health care? Do you have any idea?
For an individual, an employer has to pay 50% minimum, and for any category that's not an individual, so like employee plus spouse, employee plus child or children, family, minimum, the employer has to contribute is 33%.
So if your employer is paying 85% of your health care
That's
premium, that's quite
That's
generous,
quite
right?
generous.
And that's retiree, that's not active, that's retiree
Yeah.
benefit.
And most of those people have Medicare plans if they're retirees, right?
Right.
And in my experience, when I take someone from a group retiree Medicare plan to an individual Medicare plan, the same Medicare supplement can be, $700, $800 with Blue Cross, for instance, and I put them on their individual and it's $200 for the same coverage because it's a group thing. So that's why I always ask Dr. Fitzpatrick about his health insurance because he's like, oh, we have a high deductible. $2,000 is not a high deductible. That's considered a gold level plan in today's world.
So if citizens push, like say, well, I have Rob or Lynn to talk. All right, anything else on those two warrant articles in terms of if people wonder what we're doing? All right, did you guys get a chance to look at, we don't have a reserve fund, any other ones, do we, Gene? Did you guys get a chance to look at the minutes?
Yes.
So the March 25, I did back and forth with Stephanie a little bit about a couple typos and they look pretty good to me. Any questions on the March 25 minutes? Can somebody move then that we accept them as corrected? Because I had a little back and forth with her. She corrected.
So moved.
Lynn moves that we accept March 25, 2025 minutes as corrected, seconded by
I'll second.
Rob, thank you. Okay, any discussion, anybody? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed?
I'm gonna abstain because I don't remember reading them.
Okay,
I may have, but I don't remember it.
I would abstain too.
Carol abstains and Mike abstains. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay. So we have, all right, so that motion carries 5 yes, 2 abstentions, okay. And then April 8, any questions on that one? That's more recent. Somebody move that we accept April 8 as written.
So moved.
Robert, thank you. Second.
Second.
Lynn, thank you. Any discussion on April 8 minutes, anybody? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained.
I'm gonna abstain
Okay.
again because I don't remember if I read them.
Sandy.
I may have.
Carol, Mike abstained, okay. But because we're all here, we have enough for our quorum, so those are passed. All right, June 10, is that gonna work for people for a meeting? I think we should try to meet once more before summer. Lynn's shaking her head, we'll be in Italy,
I'll
right?
do another one.
Enjoy it.
Thank you.
Is that gonna work for everybody else? Let's tentatively pencil in June 10th.
There
Okay?
may be an additional one requested depending on how I get through the month of June,
Okay,
because you are the last, now it's whether or not we need a reserve fund transfer or an interdepartmental transfer, we would need the finance committee to meet.
so tentatively June 10th, Jean, is that okay for now?
That's a little early for me, but that's
Oh, is it?
fine if you wanna,
You wanna not do that and go to the 24th?
that would be better for me.
How about that, you guys? We not do June 10th, but do June 24th.
That's the day I come back, maybe.
Why don't we pencil in the 24th
Okay.
then, and not the 10th?
Trying to remember if this is triple.
All right, so we won't go June 10, but we'll pencil in June 24, okay. All right, anybody else have anything? So we will recess to the town meeting. We will, the other R word, reconvene
I was gonna say
at the end of the meeting to wrap things up, okay? So we are now recessed to the town meeting, so.